Hey everyone, today we're going to build our own custom Arduino from scratch and making this simple project using it, a very basic toll gate. So let's do it! Okay, so first we're going to need an Atmega 328P, one IC socket with 28 pins, one 16 MHz oscillator, two 22 picofarad ceramic capacitor, two buttons, LED lights, 220 ohms resistors, one servo motor, jumper wires, PCB0, and lastly, an Arduino as our ISP. Okay, now you may be wondering, what are we going to do with these components? Well, it's diagram time. So first, we'll make a new project in our favorite editor, EasyEda, and we're going to pick and lay all the components needed for our project. After laying all the components needed, we're now going to move forward into wiring them. Okay, now look at this beauty. This is our diagram. Now let's move on to coding. Okay, so let's whip up Arduino IDE and make a new project. Let's first include our servo header file, followed by our button pin, servo pin, and LED pin. Now let's call the servo class as SW, declare a boolean variable named isPress, create a void setup where we are going to create the configurations over our program, declare pin mode button pin as input pull-up and LED pin as output, declare SW.attach method and pass the parameter servo pin in it. Now let's start the serial communication to the Arduino. Now for the fun part, we're going to create the looped void function. Now we're going to read the state of the button by passing the button pin as a parameter to the digital read function. Now let's code the logic stuff. So now this is the state of our program. Basically, if the button is pressed, then the servo will go to 90 degrees and the LED will light up, and our boolean is pressed will be equivalent to true. Now if the button is released, then the LED will turn off and the servo motor will go back to its default, which is 180 degrees, and isPress will be equivalent to false. Now let's move on to building time. So first we're going to make the prototype in a breadboard to avoid errors in the future. Now we're going to connect all the jumper wires into its respective positions. And here you can see our Arduino fully built, and we're going to connect the servo motors and its other components to the respective pins to make it work. Here you can see that we are using Arduino as our main source of energy for our prototype. And voila! It's now working. When I press the button, the servo goes to a 90 degrees angle, and when I release it, it goes to its default, which is 180 degrees angle. Okay, now it's solder time. Okay, after finishing the Arduino, we're going to arrange the components of the servo motor and the Arduino in the breadboard to test if the Arduino is capable of making its first project work. And voila! Looks like our D.I.Y Arduino is working just fine and making the servo motor work. Here you can see that we are pushing the button and the servo motor is working just fine. And now at last, we can see our final output in action. Okay, now Here, we can see that if you press the button, the servo motor will go to a 90 degrees angle, which it will open up the gate. And then here, we can see our very own Arduino. And when I press the button, you can also see that the LED is lighting up. And here's the servo motor. Here's our Arduino as our energy source. Here you can see our positive negative connected to the breadboard, which is then connected to our own Arduino. And voila, this is our final output, a simplified toll gate using our very own DIY Arduino. Thank you everyone, and I hope you enjoy.